What's going on, people? It's Mr. Dore back again. I hope everyone's fit and well. I'm just relieved I'm back from Germany after the Forest draw 0-0 against Frankfurt, but I'm back with a podcast. How's everyone feeling? Premier League's back against that team. Yes, I'm not going to mention who we got next because we got this guy, rival. He's a rival today. But we'll get back there later on in the show. But how's everyone feeling? 3 more days to go. Cannot wait. If you are new to the channel, please do hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and comment below, people. How are you feeling about the new season ahead from Nottingham Forest? But right, let's get the guests on. We've got a special guest. We've got 2 Dumb and Dumbers here. The man himself, Kevin Campbell. Kev, how you feeling? How you feeling, Kev?
I'm feeling fantastic. I really am. Super fantastic. I'm super fantastic, in fact. There you go. I'm super fantastic. Looking forward to this podcast. Still got 3 teams in the Premier League. Happy as Larry.
Yeah, the man himself, Kevin Campbell, is here. People show some love to Kev. The older generation will know. People in the comments, what is your best goal for Kevin Campbell in the 90s? Get your comments below, people. The next up, who's the best looking at, Dave or Des? People in the comments, who's the best looking at these 2? The man himself, Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you. It's good to see everybody again and all the people listening in. Yeah, really looking forward to the start of the season, which is, let's just say, monumental, isn't it, on Saturday? A mountain to climb, let's put it like that.
Hey, Dave, have some confidence, man. The Arsenal are not that great.
I'm lulling him. That's what I'm doing.
And the last but not least, we've got I call it special. I'm always on Des every time. The man himself, Des. How you doing, Des?
I'm good. Really looking forward to the season. It's been a tricky pre-season, hasn't it? So let's get down to the real business and crack on with what keeps us all ticking over.
Yeah. So people like saying it's an exciting time. We're back in the Premier League, and I said they've got the man himself, Kevin Campbell. He's going to talk about Forest season and how he's feeling about the season ahead. But people, we'll go through the comments before we get Kev's opinion about everything. There we go. How you doing, Patrick? I hope you're well. Georgie, good evening, boy. Hope you're well restored. I feel great. I'm knackered though after the German trip, but I'm back. Peter said hi, Dore, Des, and Kevin, Dave. How you doing? D Chapo, Dore King, Des, Dave. I'm nice. How you doing? Dave said good evening, lads. Profile already. Roll on Saturday. Top lad, Kev. Don't give Kev a bit of figure.
Hey, listen, of course they know already, mate. Come on.
Listen,
I've got a question for you and the Forest guys who are watching. How did your preseason this season differ from last season? Was there more travelling this season?
Travelling? Too much travelling for me, Kev. I hate travelling. People know in the chat, I hate travelling. Yeah.
Did you go to Germany by any chance? I'm not sure you mentioned it.
Oh, don't. Why are you? Oh, don't. I don't want to mention Germany for me. Shout out to I forgot his name now. Saved my life. He actually saved my life. But that's a different show. But he saved my life to get in the ground. But it's different. It's so different. Right. People, get your comments in. If you've got any questions for Kev regarding Nottingham Forest, please do. Kev, we're back in the Premier League, second season. How you feel about Forest season up and coming?
I think this is probably the most important season for you. You know, in your emergence. Last season, you stayed up, which was good. This season, we're going to find out and we're going to be able to gauge the progress. This is going to be really important. Remember, you were one of the new teams up last season, so you just want to consolidate. Now there's another 3 new teams up. What have you got to do? You've got to make sure you keep them right underneath you. And if you can push on to that mid-table point, that's what you do. You try and get as much wins as you can, early as you can. Get the point. Because, points in the bag means that you can relax a little bit. And when the boys can relax at home, you tend to get results. So I just think it's such an important time for Nottingham Forest. Watch some of your pre-season games. Don't think you were prolific or anything like that, But you know what? You know that steely determination that you had at the bottom end of last season? I think that's still there in abundance. So I think you guys will be in good stead. It's going to put you in good stead for this season.
Des, as you know, pre-season has not been great for us, but people, does it matter? Des, like pre-season, we won. We were in Levante, we beat Notts County, but as you know, Des, Forest fans, they're always back. Oh, we're not happy, blah blah. But does it matter, Des?
It does to some degree, Dore. Let's not be silly about it. You know, the results don't matter in terms of league tables and points accumulated, so it's not the end of the world if you don't win the football match. But we would have, personally, and I think most people would have liked to seen a little bit more, be excited a little bit. But again, it's all about fitness. It's building up to a level, working on formations. The transfer market's been extremely slow, so you'd expect to see different players in. I think pre-season is probably going to be the first few games of the season in reality. So I think, of course, it does matter to some degree. And you'd like to see those positive signs and some confidence to take into the new season. But it's not the be-all and end-all. Like we've touched on, lots of travelling. Injuries, again, picked up to one or two players. Morgan Gibbs-White didn't come back till late. Brennan Johnson's got an injury, and there's potential moves in the offing. You know, so it's just, we've seen it in the past, haven't we? Where we've won every game and got relegated, and we've probably lost every game and done well and got promoted and things like that. So you sort of come to, as a football fan over many years, you come to accept what it is, you know. And then when it comes to the first game of the season, you get a real feel for what it's all about. And then 5, 6, 10 games in, you know exactly where you are and roughly how your season's going to pan out. So, yeah, I think it's a big season, like Kev says. Don't want to be a victim of second season syndrome, because it can be really hard, because teams will now have worked us out, you know, where we was that surprise package to some degree, and we had that steel and determination and the City Ground crowd and that kind of thing. Now, you know, teams will know what to expect. They'll know a bit more about Steve Cooper and his tactics. So we've got to push on from where we're at now and make sure. I feel this season is massive in the grand scheme of things. If we can stay up this season, I feel we push on and start climbing up the table to somewhere where we feel we should be.
Dave, I know you're not a big fan of transfer gossip. He's not a big fan, people, as I do. He hates it. Are you happy with the signing so far, Dave? Or
to be honest with you, Ben, I don't subscribe to some of the hysteria that's been going around. My view is that pre-season for me, as long as our lads come through unscathed. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit worried about Felipe at the moment. Taiwo picked up a knock against Leeds. To me, it's minutes and legs. It's hello, how are you? We all get back together again. We get the friendships, we get the relationships, we get the connectivity in the collective back again. The results don't matter to me. I've seen, as Des alluded to, I've seen lots of pre-seasons where teams tear teams to pieces. In fact, I was thinking about Forest the year after we were relegated under Brian. I think we won every game in pre-season and then won 2 of the first 12. So I don't put any store by results in pre-season. What I put store by is, are the lads getting on well? Are they familiarising with each other? Are they getting minutes in legs? Are we not picking up injuries? And the truth of the matter for me is that the vast bulk of the team that will probably go out on Saturday against Arsenal at the Emirates was really in place at the end of last season. I mean, you couldn't get 2 more dissimilar, wildly varying pre-seasons in any football club's history. Last year, it was like thousands were being parachuted in, and then it was like Steve had to move all the pieces. This year, we've had Elanga's come in. I think he's a good signing. Ola Aina looks a really good lad. Matty Turner looks like he's possibly in the building. I don't know. I won't believe it. As I've said to you, Ben,
you won't believe it.
When it is on that official Nottingham Forest website, I'll believe it. I do not believe rumours and hearsay from these professional assumers and presumers on social media. I won't
Take
have
it from
right.
me, Dave. He's coming.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you,
Professional assumer.
yeah. But the thing is, I think with us, we almost had a pre-season right through last season to get to where Steve could say, a settled team, a settled core of a team emerged, I think, from Liverpool away onwards. When we lost 3-2 at Liverpool, from that point onwards, I think our team was almost kind of set for this season. It's just a matter of adding bits here and there. So no, I don't place any store. I certainly don't, lose my mind over results in pre-season, because the real stuff starts this week.
Kevin, as you know, we've got Arsenal first game, but as you know, it's second season syndrome for Forest. What do they need to do for this? Because it's going to be tough. We haven't brought in, as we brought 2 players in, but what do Forest need to do from now to the end of May?
Well, look, let's take it up until Christmas first.
Yeah.
Because, you try and break your season down. I think Forest have to get as many 3 points as they can at the City Ground. And their away form has to be a lot more tight. I think you worked it out. The lads were mentioning at Liverpool, 3-2 game, and, you probably could have got something from Anfield. You've got to be a lot tighter away from home. If the opposition score, you're going to have to score. You're going to have to stay in the game. I think that's going to be important. Not getting blown away, giving your goal difference a mountain to climb. I think, like I said, and last season, I think Forest worked it out in the end. Yeah, we can't be free-flowing because the opposition can cut through us. So what we're going to do, we're going to be tight, we're going to be smart, and we're going to use our weapons on the counter-attack. And I think Forest used their counter-attacking weapons to the nth degree at the back end of last season. And you found your feet. You found your feet in the Premier League. Now, nothing is a surprise to Forest anymore. That's the other beautiful thing. The fans know what it's about. The players know what it's about. Obviously, new bodies in the building. They've played Premier League football before. The key is, as Dave quite rightly mentioned, the relationships, the connections within the team. Just got to keep moving up that table. Get as many 3 points as you can before Christmas. Make sure you're kind of mid-table-ish. And then you can go second half and have a nice season. Do you know what I mean? You could have not a bite in your nails at the end season. That's what I think everyone needs.
Quick question. Like the question, as you know, Steve Cooper was under pressure at the start of last season. It's his second season as a Premier League manager. We all know that there's going to be more pressure on him now. He's got the first 4 away games are tough. And this is for the panel as well and the chat. If Steve Cooper loses his first 4 away games, do Mr. Marinakis need to say, okay, his first 4 games, I'll keep you. But as I said, it's more pressure on him this season than them. Do you think he needs to be like, okay, and let you off for a bit, but if he just carry on losing, it's a chop. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. Look, again, I'm going to say it. This season, Nottingham Forest Premiership survival is going to rely on the City Ground. That's for sure. Where you finish, if you're going to finish higher up that table, then your away form has to pick up at some stage. Now, the first 4 games are tough games. Of course they are. Do you know what? One thing is about this league, you just never know. Now you guys are not novices anymore. You've got a season under your belt. You know, we've seen, if you lose your first 4 away games and you win a couple of your home games, I guarantee you'll be mid-table. You won't be down at the bottom. The key is going to be the City Ground. And the City Ground's such a difficult place to go, Dore.
What do you think, Des? Do you think like these 4 games, like City Kev, what do you think Cooper needs to do? Like, do you think defensive with the 4 big games that we're playing up? What do you think we need to do?
You know what? Just a couple of points before you even ask me the question. Looking at what the guys had said, do you know what? Dave mentioned the Liverpool game and how things changed. You know, and I think from that game we find a formula of how to play away. You know, what we did in the Liverpool game was something I bemoaned all season. We still made stupid mistakes. We found that formula at Brentford as well, and we still made stupid individual errors that cost us games. What Forest need to do in every game this season is cut out the mistakes. When we look really good, even though the teams we were playing were better than us, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, when we was really good and tight and in the game and eventually got something out of the game, we didn't put a foot wrong almost. Chelsea we did, second half, but we got back into it. Chelsea, we gave them 2 goals. So what these players have got to do is stand up a little bit as well. It's okay talking about Steve Cooper in the first 4 away games, but the players have to stand up. They have to make the passes in midfield. Goalkeepers have to parry them around the post rather than back into play. You know, and all these things are important away from home. Not give away penalties or lose markers in the first few minutes of games. And I think if they do that, they'll get some surprise results. However, if they lose those first 4 away games, and Liverpool's the 6th away game, so we could potentially lose 5 out of 6 away games, in being realistic, how many teams, Luton, Sheffield United, Everton, how many of those teams are going to get a great deal of points from those? So even if we lose 5 of those first 6 away games, you know, those other teams are only likely to pick up 1-3 points from those 5 or 6 games. It don't put us that far behind the 8 ball. What we have to do is not let our heads drop. Again, try and remain confident, pick up the points at home, whether against Sheffield United, against Burnley, a game away at Palace early in the season. Luton's not too far into the season as well. Pick up points and, like Kev says, get those points back on the board. Because what kept Forest up ultimately, despite that little run at the end, was that period after Christmas where they found a bit of formula. The crowd sort of went ballistic and the points was on the board. We then went into a bit of free fall and just kept our head above the line. And it was then, at some point, you're going to kick back in. Something's going to fall your way. And it seemed to do that, you know, and we managed to just about stay up. So for me, this season is about players, you know, performing. I think some massively underperformed, while some did a great job in spells last season. And again, let's put these fixtures into a little bit of context, you know, and think how far it does actually put us behind, especially if we pick up those points. Like Kev says, if we pick up 2 wins at home, we'll probably be sitting in sort of top of the bottom half of the table. We hope. Points from 6 games. I worked off the basis last year for much of it. If we can get a point a game, you know, we're likely to stay up. I think the points total this year will be even lower. I do think Forest have got a few issues to address, but I think it's achievable if we tick along at a point a game. If we get 6 more points on the road this season, it's going to be a massive sort of tick in the box, isn't it? So again, I think to get those 6 points, it might not come in the first games, but cutting out the mistakes, the managers learn how to play. You know, it's not always pretty. Sometimes we have to go without the ball, you know. But again, when we hit teams on the break, when we get amongst them, when we get Tyro in the face and Morgan Gibbs White pulling the strings, you know, we look quite good at times. So I think we've got a real chance of doing all right.
Mm-hmm. People, please do hit the like button and subscribe if you're new to my DoreOnTour channel. Dave Des mentioned that there's still a few key players we mentioned, and we know we're getting Matt Taylor from Arsenal. We'll ask Kev about him. What else do we need, Dave? What positions that we need desperately? Because we know that the Ben Johnson saga keeps coming and going. What positions do we need, Dave? Well,
and a little bit of creativity in midfield. Yeah, a left back and a striker, and a little bit of creativity in midfield. That's my shopping list, right? Another goalkeeper. I really want Dean back in the building because Dean's part of the family. You know, if you'd have seen Dean celebrating in the dressing room after the Arsenal win at the end of last season, or
Against
you'd have seen him
Arsenal,
on the
against Arsenal, Kev,
Yeah.
against Arsenal.
or seen
Hey,
it,
listen, and rightly so, by the way. Rightly so. You should be celebrating because you know what? You guys deserved it, mate. Great performance.
yeah, broke the record for the least amount of possession in a football match in the history of the Premier League, and beat a title contender and Champions League qualifying side. It takes some doing. And I thought Forest were unbelievably brave and unselfish at the end of last season, because our manager said, we are playing in a way that I do not want to play. Aesthetically speaking, this is not how I want to play. And Nottingham Forest prostrated themselves and said, we're going to do something that is against our nature. And they got their reward for their unselfishness, right? I think we need a backup to Taiwo. I think we need a Tanner, to use the old footballing term, a Tanner ball player in midfield, somebody to control tempo for us.
Oh, what,
we haven't
Dave?
got that. A Tanner ball player.
Listen, I'm too young. I'm young to say people. I ain't got a clue what he's saying. I ain't got a clue.
Dave, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Without wishing to age Kev, I'm about 120. Let's just put that. I think we need a left back. I've been really impressed with young Josh Powell in pre-season. To me, he was a real standout for a kid. But Josh, I don't think he's quite ready yet. And Omar Richards, we don't know. But I mean, to return to the previous points, all I want, I mean, somebody said to me, what do you want from Forest this year? I said, give me 17th now, because then that's another season in this league. What I worry about is the great novelty amongst the fans of that first season back in the Premier League. I don't want us to get to the point where, oh, it's all off pat now, or for us to take that home form for granted. We can't just say it'll happen. I mean, the way I look at the start of the season is the game against Sheffield United at home is, to me, colossal. Arsenal away, Manchester United away, Chelsea away, Manchester City away. They're incredibly tough. But by the same token, they're amazing opportunities, those 4 games. Should Forest, say, pick up a win at Arsenal or a win at Manchester United or a win at Chelsea or a win at, of all places, the best team in the world, what does that say about our club? And what does that then send a message to the rest of the media and the rest of the league? Blimey, Nottingham Forest won at the Emirates, or they won at Stamford Bridge, or they won at Old Trafford. These are incredible opportunities, and I would really like to think that our certainly our coach and our coaching staff and our lads were thinking, no better time to play these giants than at the start of the season. I tell you, I'd rather be playing Manchester City in September or August than I would be, further down the line. So, to my way of thinking, there are, Des is right, there are issues and areas that need to be addressed, but I have total faith that our meticulous coach and his staff will address those areas. I think he will have, because he's played so many different players in pre-season, he's now got a broader field of vision about what people can and can't do to fit around that core that he learned about at the end of last season. And I just think that I do feel, meanwhile, I have to play a little bit of catch up, but what I'd really want as a minimum is a win against Sheffield United on the 18th, a week on Friday. And then I want a win against Burnley, I think, on the 16th of September. Those are crucial matches for us. Those are a must-haves. The other 4, that daunting sort of quartet of fixtures, just go and see what happens. I've seen it before where, I remember a few years ago, Burnley went to Stamford Bridge on the opening day of the season and won 3-2. What it did, even at that first game stage of the season, it set the bar for them, and they can, wow, what a boost and what a platform to build on. So, but the way I look at it, we just have to, like Kev said, if we're looking at this as a long-term project, which I think we all should, because we want to stay in this division as long as possible, we need to stay up this year. There's something that's stuck in my head. I read something, I think it was last week, Brighton and Hove Albion, who I think a lot of clubs in our position, in that bottom 10, if you like, in the Premier League, aspire to be like Brighton. They came up, the first year they were 16th, the second year they were 17th, the third year they were 15th. And so Forest might have to go through that. Villa scraped up the first year and then managed to build on it. And it's just laying that platform. I'd like a bit of improvement this year. I think it's going to be difficult to really march up towards that middle. But we'll see what goes on. But you know, there are different ways of looking at the start of the season. But the Sheffield United game, absolute must win. Yeah, absolutely do. And the thing is, you know, Taiwo was fantastic at the end of last season. He was a little bit of a ball from the blue because you know, he had injuries, and then for the early part of the season, I don't think everybody in the fan base was convinced.
They weren't convinced, were they? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But I'd like us to, I definitely think we need another striker. You know, I mean, just a finisher. Somebody to add the finishing touch to what Brennan and Morgan and Anthony Elanga and you know, Scarpa, if he plays, these people, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna be our creators. Somebody just put it in the back of the net. Get yourself a 20-goal merchant, you're probably safe.
Hey, Dave, hold on.
Come out of retirement, Kev.
20-goal merchant. Do you know how many Arsenal are looking for a 20-goal merchant? They are gold dust, mate.
They are, mate.
You get somebody up there who can add another 10 goals, you are fine. Another 10 goals to what you've already got, you're fine.
So, quick question. And I saw in the comments, I don't know if no one knows, the Wolves manager has left. Locatelli has left.
Lopetegui.
Has just left. Yeah. So
Gary O'Neill.
That's by mutual consent, by the way.
Wow. As you know, Wolves. I hear on this one base our Forest have not brought no one in. Look at Wolves. They've brought no one in.
And that's a good, Ben. That's a good point. We're looking within our little goldfish bowl here. People at Sheffield United, they're going to be thinking we just sold Iliman and Jai. Sonderberger, the excellent Sonderberger, might be on the way out. So we're looking inside our house, but people in the houses down the other end of the road, they've got issues as well.
Exactly.
So Fulham have got the Mitrovic conundrum. What's going on with him? He's such a talisman for them. Wolves have just sold Neves, so it's not just us. I think there's a clutch of teams that are much of a muchness there.
People in comment, if you do massively, please do hit the like button and please subscribe if you're new to DoreOnTour. Kev, as you as a striker, players like Brennan Johnson, Mug Gibbs White, Taiwo, there's going to be more pressure on, especially Brennan Johnson, because he was a guy in the first part of the season was scoring goals. Then we had Taiwo come back from injury, scoring goals. Mug Gibbs White, he did his magic in that number 10 role. There's going to be more pressure on them next season and more eyes on them because, as you know, Mug Gibbs White did well for the under-21s, won the European Cup. How much pressure is Brennan Johnson on next season if he stays with Forest next season?
Well, no matter where he is, I think he should stay, and I think he will stay. People know him now. People know what his attributes are, because we know when teams come up from the Championship in the Premier League, you're like, all right, well, you know, we'll just take them on and see, because we're the Premier League side. Now teams can scheme for him. Now they've got video footage to watch of him in the Premier League. You know, all the scouting departments say, right, what we got to make sure, keep sending him down the line. Don't let him come inside. Do all this. Double up on him. Stop the ball going to him. He likes to run. Make sure you check him. You know, all different things where Brennan Johnson now is going to have to adjust his game as well, because he had a fantastic season last season. Morgan Gibbs White had a fantastic season. But one year came into his own come the end. But everybody knows these are Forest's most dangerous players. So what are the opposition going to do? Let somebody else beat you. Do not let Brennan Johnson beat you. Do not let Morgan Gibbs White beat you. And make sure, one, you don't beat you. Let somebody else. And who else could beat you? That's going to be the conundrum. That's why I said, if there's another player who could nick you 10 goals, I tell you, it makes a difference, because the opposition then has to adjust. Somebody else scores, all of a sudden it's like, right, well, we've got to cover that now. And that's how the best teams do it. You know, you mark up everybody and then somebody else scores and it's like crazy.
Yeah. Des, and as all Forest fans know, last season I was, I think all of it was, really frustrated about our midfield because we wasn't great, especially in that area. Des, I just saw a comment from Mark. How you doing, Mark? If you want to be a member, please be a member. Danilo, this is a player that Arsenal wanted as well, and he comes to a better club. Sorry, Kev. This is his season, isn't it? Where everyone's gonna watch him because, like I said, in the last season, he started. He started very. At the end, he finished very well. He's got to step up again, especially when people like Yates, Bangala. Who else is there? Remo Fowler. I know Des hates him. That's a hate word, but we've got to improve that midfield, don't we, next season, Des?
Oh, well, you just said it yourself. I don't hate Remo Fowler, but
you dislike him. People in the comments, tell me how much he hates Remo Fowler.
I feel Forest need a number 6, a massive player to play in that role, to win the ball, to pass the ball forward quickly, to get it to the flair players, to get it to Gibbs White, to get it to Johnson, because that was one of the flaws. We've got all that pace and ability going forward, and one of the flaws in the team was that we couldn't get the ball up there quick enough. Perhaps we lack a ball-playing centre-half at times, for injuries and such things. So again, it was just about conceding possession, and then when we did get possession, we gave it away too quickly. We all know in the Premier League, possession is 9/10 of the law, for want of a better cliche. But it's exactly that, isn't it? And your point about Danilo, he came as that player who we thought was going to sort of budge Foyer into a different position, and we'd see something a bit different from Foyer. How it's transpired is he's found a role in a more advanced position himself, and he's almost become that link up again with Gibbs White, from the midfield to Gibbs White, and it worked at the end of the season. He was breaking into the box. A midfield player that breaks into the box is gold dust. Some of the best players you've seen, Frank Lampard, Steve Gerrard, these players are just incredible. Paul Scholes, and I'm not talking on those terms yet, but this kid's got all the potential to be that. The goal he scored against Brighton, when we was up against it, and he ran in and he hit it first time, and then he pops up in the box against Brentford. Goal scoring midfielders are such a commodity. So he's going to be absolutely massive this season. He's going to be, I don't think he needs to step up, Dore. I think he will just step up. He'll just perform the way he did towards the end of last season. One of the plus points from the pre-season games I've seen is Danilo. He's looked very good. He's looked very sharp. Other players, to be honest, have looked like they've been on a different wavelength because he looks that good. And there's a lot of talk about his next move already, because he's that good, and the big teams in Europe being the ones that sniff around him. So I think that's what gives me reason to be optimistic. For all those flaws, for the midfield, for the defence, for one or two gaps that Dave mentioned, maybe left back and the number 6. What we have got, when you look at Tyro's finishing record at the end of the season, and when you've got Johnson around the squad, when you've got Gibbs White and Danilo who can chip in with goals, lots of teams outside the top 6 would want Johnson, Danilo, and Gibbs White in the team. That's quite formidable, and that's what gives me the real hope. And now Elanga with that pace, I'd like to see sort of a shape that we played more in the Championship. There's a lot that has to be done for that. But if you've got Elanga and Johnson wide and Tyro through the middle, that sounds really exciting with Danilo and Gibbs White behind them. And again, it takes a lot for that to happen. But it's that reason to be optimistic, and some really good young talent who are only going to get better for last year's experience. So, and I think Danilo this is going to be a big season for him.
Could he be your 10 goals, extra 10 goals a season player?
I think he could be. He got 2 or 3 towards the end of last season. I think you're playing for a whole season. Of course, he only came in January,
exactly.
And he only played about half the games. I don't know the official stats, but he only played about half the games because he played a 55-game season in Brazil. They put him in a role that they felt they needed to fill quickly. That number 6 role we were talking about didn't quite work out because of the work he had to get through, and he was probably tired. Cooper pulled him out of the team, until it was absolute. He was kind of thrown back in as well at a point. You know, we all thought it was too soon, but he just hit the ground running in that role. And I think that's where Forest have got a real... That's potentially why there's a lot of talk, in my mind, about Brennan Johnson moving on. Because I think Forest might feel they can fill those goals in Danilo and Gibbs-White. Obviously, Gibbs-White didn't get that many. So again, the way he's performing at the moment, split between the two, you've got all those goals within them.
Kev, as you know, the goalkeeper situation has been crazy for us. We're getting Matt Turner from Arsenal. Tell us about him. If Forest do sign him, it seems like we are. What can he give us? What's his strengths? What's the weakness? Talk to us, Kev. What's he like?
Tell you what, everyone, he's a very, very capable goalkeeper. Very driven, very focused. He's a very good shot stopper, and a lot of Arsenal fans actually think he's, why are we getting rid of him? We know David Raya's a good goalkeeper at Brentford, but you're talking about America's number one here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's played in the World Cup, done well in the World Cup. The difference is, I think, when you're where Arsenal are right now, is just the trust factor. I think it's just the trust factor to know you've got two number ones, whereas Turner hasn't got the games behind him. And Arsenal are in win now mode. Because of what happened last season, spending over 200 million in the transfer market, they've got to make sure going to be in the Champions League. They've got to make sure they're covered. And they haven't got the opportunity to be getting anybody to learn on the job. That's the problem. So I say you guys are getting a top keeper. I think he's a top keeper, a top guy as well. He's a top guy as well. Very good teammate, so I believe. And I think you're signing somebody who's going to do Forest proud, mate. I tell you.
People, you heard it first from Kev. He is a top keeper. So
he's a good keeper. Very good.
Everyone said because he was number two, and I think he just played. Was it Europa games, Kev?
Europa League, yeah. Europa League.
Yeah,
but he's just won the. That in America have that pre-season tour, don't they? They have that tournament. He's just won that again.
Gold Cup.
Yeah, the Gold Cup, top goalkeeper of the tournament. Unbelievable. So, and you don't become the top goalkeeper in international tournaments if you're rubbish. That's for sure.
100%. In fact, we've got two international goalkeepers because not only have we got America's number one, we've got America's number two, Ethan Horvath. So, and we could have Dean Henderson, which would be fun. We might even have Kasper Schmeichel. You never know.
Oh.
So, but I like Turner. To me, I watched him in the World Cup and I thought that guy's got something about him. It's a huge country. So if you're the best goalkeeper in a huge geographical area with massive population like that, millions and millions, then you can't be bad, can you? Really? You know what I mean?
Des, we've got players like Felipe injured, Nia Carty injured as well. There's going to be more pressure on Joe Worrell, McKenna, Ollie. Like I said, we've got these first 4 away games are absolutely tough, and we all know that Joe's been given so much stick as well, and he's not had a great pre-season, but he's got to step up. He's got to step up just to prove the fans wrong and see that his second season as a Premier League defender that he's ready. Do you think he can do it, Des? People in the comments as well, get involved. Do you think he's ready?
I think he can do it. What I saw from Joe last year, which I'd probably not noticed because he was probably a little bit above the levels he's played at before. He's obviously a confidence player. You could physically see it in him. And you normally see that with young strikers or strikers who don't get the ball. Defenders are quite often made a little bit different. They just. They're not like that. But Joe, obviously, last year showed he was a little bit of a confidence player. When he started the season, it was tough. Erling Haaland just about bagged him all over Manchester. And from that point, he found it a little bit difficult. But Erling Haaland did that to most defenders last season. He come out of the team, you know, and then he was in and out, and he was probably really, really frustrated, and you could tell he was desperate to perform, and that sometimes leads to a mistake, doesn't it? Towards the end of the season, when he got back in the team, he was absolutely magnificent, and he was magnificent at Chelsea. The game I mentioned before, he was brilliant. That game, the Arsenal game, it was the guy we know, Colossus, you know, one of our own, you know, all these phrases we use to, the things I do in reporting after games, the terms I used, you know, because he was that good. And people often then say, oh yeah, he's just one of our own, so you over egg it. No, if you're being honest, they were brilliant. So going into the pre-season and seeing some of the mistakes he's made, again, you think, let's just hope he's not lost his confidence. Let's, you know, it will have knocked him a little bit. It always will. You know, nobody wants to make a mistake at anything. But let's hope he can pick up where he left off at the back end of last season. I think Felipe was a massive help to Joe, you know, and sort of fitting into that three at the back and playing well alongside someone with so much experience. Because again, like you say, Dore, it was Joe's first season in the Premier League. What all these players have got now is a season under their belt. And let's be honest, there's one or two little rumours around teams after Joe this summer.
Yeah, there was.
You know, so it can't be that bad a footballer, you know, and hopefully it just works out for him. He's the captain. He is one of our own. We all want it to work. But what we need to do is not get on his case. Defenders in our team are going to make mistakes. We're going to be under a lot of pressure, you know, and sometimes it's about looking around at what you've got at the minute. Not much, because we don't quite know what's happening with Felipe. Niakarte's got a shoulder injury, although I'd expect him to be back fairly early. I think sort of injuries like that tend to clear up pretty quick. And then you've got Bolly, and I quite like Bolly, to be honest. I think he's really, his footwork is a bit dicey, but I think when it comes to sort of commanding the aerial battle with certain players, I think he's more than useful. There's been one or two rumours about him leaving. I'd like to see him stay on, and then we've got Scott as well, who will always do you a job. You know, again, a bit like Joe, you'd like to think they could kick on and use the experience. So it does seem like one of those areas where we're a little bit concerned. But again, let's be realistic. Forest are going to be up against it in these first 6 games. So if one or two players make a mistake, if we concede goals, because it's always someone's fault. You never concede a goal without it being someone's fault. You know,
it's always Joe. It's always Joe. If he's not learning to play, it's always Joe Wall. This is why
it's important to stick with them, you know, and especially important. People go, "Oh, you look after them because they come through the academy." Yes, we do.
Yeah, you're damn right. Look after them.
You want your own to do well, and again, this guy's got such an important part to play. Imagine if the worst happened and Forest got relegated. Who would you want as your captain in the Championship? Do you know, who would you want? Because again, I'm not saying he's going to play 38 games this season. I'm not saying he's always going to be the first choice, but he's definitely part of the football club and he's definitely worth getting behind. So I think, again, like most players, to be honest, it's a big season for him. If he can cut out those mistakes, all of a sudden, you know, teams are starting to think, this guy's the player we thought he was going to be in the Premier League. It's not that long ago, Brentford, Burnley, or whoever were knocking on the door with 15 million on the table, that kind of money being spoke about. So you don't become a bad footballer overnight. You know, what do they say? Form is temporary, class is permanent. Hopefully, he rises back up and starts the season well.
100%. People, please do hit the like button, subscribe if you do. As well, people, after this, I've got another video coming out as well, so make sure you watch out for that. I will tell Kev, Des, and Dave where do you think Forest will finish this season as well, and who do you think will finish bottom 3? So people as well, watch out for that as well. Kev, we're going to talk about the owner, Mr. Marinakis. He's done well. We can't beat it. He spent well. He's talked the talk as well. What's his next step as an owner? Because he spent, like I said, we can't. The past owners we have, I'm not going to talk about 5 hours. Miss Michael, he spent loads. What's his next step for Nottingham Forest? Because he's back Cooper. Do you think he needs to back him again if Forest do struggle in the first 2 months, we can say?
I think, listen, the truth of the matter is I think the owner's been excellent.
Yeah.
I think the owner from last season has been excellent, especially after that Leicester game, giving the manager a new contract, killing all the talk of the manager going, which I think was a masterstroke.
100%.
Settled everybody down and got everybody focused. And then not too long after that, the team started picking up points. I think it was Brighton was one of the games. Brighton away picked up a point away.
0-0.
And then you started moving forward. I think he's done so much work last season that it's a matter of, okay, Steve Cooper, you see what you can do. Let the season start, but we've got a nice little window. If we need to move and shake, we've got a nice bit of window to do something. I think the owner will dip into his pocket if the manager needs it. But you've had that many players that the manager all of a sudden has got he's got a settled squad, whether the preseason goes well or not. You've got players now, your Joe Worrells, etc., who's got a year's experience in their pocket now. They're going to be better players for having a year and not going down and staying up. So they've played against the best and they've stayed up. They've got nothing to worry about now. You've got to attack the season. And I truly believe the owner will go again if need be. But it's got to be the right players.
What do you think, Dave? Do you echo what Kev says?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's an incredibly ambitious man. I think what we've seen a changing of priorities for Mr. Marinakis from a personal point of view and from a business point of view, where, those early years of his tenure, it was Olympiacos that was the priority because they were playing Champions League football. I think that Forest, to their great credit, have earned the higher standing in his affections, I think. I mean, what I think he'll do, he has been a brilliant owner. I mean, you compare and contrast with the previous regimes that we've had, and he sort of stacks up pretty well. What I loved about him was how he bankrolled the club during the COVID crisis. A lot of clubs suffered through that period in history. And he made sure that Forest weren't badly wounded by what went on there. So my undying gratitude to him for that. And then he made a promise at the council building on Monday, the 30th of May of last year, where he said, I will give Steve Cooper the tools to do, to enable him to do the job. And through a bit of cluster bombing, he eventually found the right people. Not every one of them worked. You're getting 30 new people into the building. Some are going to fit, some are not going to fit. I think Steve should have been in the conversation for Manager of the Year, because to be given 30 new faces and then to arrange them and to bring them together, it's an unbelievably difficult social experiment. You put that into any context of life, whether it's a choir or a workplace team or a military unit, and say, right, bring these people who've never met each other together and make them cohesive, is astonishing, right? And I think with Steve, I think he will back him again, and I think he'll take a view about these early games. Like Kev says, the window doesn't shut until I think it's September 1st. End of August. So I think back to last year. And to me, our best player didn't arrive. So we went to Newcastle. We lost 2-0 at Newcastle. Our best player last season wasn't there. We then played Tottenham at home. West Ham at home. Our best player of the season wasn't there. Our best player of the season came on as a substitute at Goodison Park when we drew 1-1. Morgan Gibbs-White gave a 25-minute cameo where he kind of thought, hello, we've got somebody here. So he didn't come, before the start of the season. So there are precedents there, I think. All I would say is that, for me, I just want us to be a Premier League side again. Mr. Marinakis, I think, will want to see. I think he'll want to see 12th, 13th, 14th. Me, I'm happy with 17th, 16th. But I think Mr. Marinakis, he will want to see, more of a dividend on his investment. And if he doesn't see that, then the pressure is going to come on Steve. What I loved about Mr. Marinakis last year was he didn't fall into the convention that other clubs did. Right, we're having a bad 5 minutes. Let's get rid of this good guy. What he did was unbelievably brilliant and actually brought the whole club together. Was he listened to the fan base? Yeah, there were pockets of the fan base that wanted Steve gone, and that's fine. And it's a democratic world. But that night at Leicester in particular, when the fact we'd lost 4-0 and we'd been thumped out of Leicestershire, our 3,300 sang their hearts out in praise of our manager, who was very sheepish in coming towards the away end to give his thanks that night. That was on the Monday. On the Friday, he had a new contract. The following Monday, we drew 1-1 with Aston Villa. And we then began to claw back some of the ground that we'd lost. So I think, I've got, a lot personal gratitude to him for what he did. But what I will say is he won't want Forest. I kind of want Forest to tread water and just stay as a Premier League team. I think Mr. Marinakis will want something far more than I want. And I think he'll want Forest to start swimming. I think what he'll want Forest to do is, rather than being a team that became gritty and stoic and difficult to beat, which is what was absolutely necessary last year, I think he'll want Forest to start being a team that says, poking others on the nose, rather than just sort of going rope-a-dope. I mean, Forest season to me was almost like Ali. He throws the right cross against George in the first round, then he goes rope-a-dope for 8 and knocks him out. And Forest did that. They did it against Liverpool. They did it against Arsenal. They did it against Brighton. But I think Mr. Marinakis will want something a little bit more than that. Me personally, I just want us to stay as a Premier League team. But his ambition is different to mine. And he's the guy putting the money in. So he's every right to have a different view to me. So it's that dynamic between Steve Cooper and Evangelos Marinakis as a sideshow to the important stuff. He's on the field. I think it's going to be a fascinating sideshow.
100%. I love when Dave talks.
Can I just say?
Yes.
Dave said before that, previously, that Steve Cooper wants to play more expansive. Obviously, the owner wants to play more expansive. But
got to earn the right, though, haven't you?
But what gets you the results? And this is so dangerous, such a dangerous thing. Oh, we want to be more expansive. We want to do this. Do you know how many teams have wanted to be more expensive and ended up in League One?
And Kev, we got burnt.
Be careful what you wish for.
If you go back to September of last year, Kev, we had 2 home games which everybody had targeted. Bournemouth at home and Fulham at home. We led in both. We played gung-ho. We lost both. And it was actually a painful lesson, but it was a vital lesson. I mean, the Bournemouth game, I was so devastated. I had to go to Desi's wedding to cheer me up.
Me too.
So, thanks, Des. Lessons learned. But Kev, my point is, mate, Forest, a bit like Brighton have done, they've gone through this, they ground their way to it, and they've earned their right to be more expansive. And we are in that grinding phase. I don't see it happening for a while yet.
People have got another 6 minutes to go. Last one, people get involved in the chat. Where do you think Forest will finish? I remember Kev. I think last show Kev was on. He wrote it down. I think I've changed my mind because of the squad we've got. I have changed my mind. So I'll get Kev, Des, and Dave opinion in a minute. So people in the chat, where do you think Forest will finish? And after this, I've got to say I've got another video out as well. What Div is on. I still didn't get Des's video. So Des, shame on you. Let me start with Des. So people in the chat, where do you think Forest will finish? Let me start with you, Des. Right, the squad we've got now, minus Turner, where do you think Forest will finish? Where? Des, you're mute. See me? This guy is not right.
Dog went feral for 5 minutes. I think Forest will finish 17th. I think with the squad they've got now, I think they're in for another season of struggle. You know, let's be realistic. It's going to be a tough start, so they're going to be up against it. For everything we said that could work in our favour later on, you know, you're going to be behind it a bit. I think I'm pleased with the left-sided signings. You know, the only two at the moment. It looks like we'll get Henderson. I'd like to see one or two more in place, definitely in that midfield. I think if they get a midfielder and a centre back, and Felipe plays a big part in the season, I think they'll stop up. But to be honest, I think 17, because at the end of the season, I thought all we needed to do was sign a goalkeeper, keep running on, sign a midfielder, and we'd be all right. But it's not transpired like that. Again, Lodi went, Henderson's not quite worked out. I'd have been a lot more optimistic if they'd got the signings in early, you know, and really put a stamp down in that sense. Everybody went mad about the 30 signings last year. If we'd have got 3 or 4 solid signings in early and really knew where we was at, I think we'd have been a lot more confident. I just feel with the injuries and the squad at the moment, it's a little bit bare. Again, we don't know. Look, Dave made the point about Gibbs White didn't come in at the start of the season. If they've got anyone like that lined up, you know, it'll only benefit us, won't it? But I think right now we've got a bit of a battle on. I'm not saying we won't come through it, but the most important person in it all, and get called for saying it all the time, is Steve Cooper. You were talking to Dave about Marinakis. You know, it's fantastic. You can't fault what Marinakis has done. Absolutely incredible. But out of all those 30 signings, the most important person that kept Forest in the Premier League last year was Cooper, because a lot of those signings didn't. You know, a lot.
Agree.
You know, and a lot, and there was only 1 or 2 bright sparks in the end. You know, out of all those signings that really, really shone through. So I think that Forest stayed up because of Steve Cooper. This season, Forest stay up, it will be because of Steve Cooper finding a way that's alien and unnatural for him, for Forest, for these players to play without the ball a lot, you know, to give up possession and make sure that we get results by hook or by crook at home with a great atmosphere, nicking a 0-0 away at Brighton again, you know, taking advantage when we really, really have to, when we're really in the doggy-do.
Who's doing this? I'll leave Kev last. Dave. Yeah. Make this short and sweet, not 30 minutes about where Forest will finish. Make it, go on, Dave, if you can do it.
First. Oh, no, hang on. Sorry, no.
I love that, Dave. Go on.
Just testing you, lads. I know you're all out there. I can hear you breathing. No, I think I'm going to try and be serious, which is very difficult for me. 15th, I think. I said 15th last year. I was 1 out. I think it's another season of struggle. I think we're in an unbelievable league. We've got, you know, we're in the league that's won by the best team on the planet, right? The team that won a treble. So that sets the standard for a start. And then there are clubs chasing. We're in an incredibly difficult division. We yearn to be there. So we have to kind of embrace it and move forward and say, yeah, this is where we want to be. So, but I think it's going to be very, very tough. As it might be for the next 2 or 3 seasons if we keep doing it, but we have to go again. I think given the first 4 away games, I mean, I'd like to think there'll be a bolt from the blue there, but logic suggests that there won't be. So I think we may have to play a bit of catch up again. So yeah, 15th will do me, and I think that's where what I tend to feel is that, without naming names, there are some clubs who, and it's all perspective and it's all context, I think that they have issues in some ways greater than ours. I think there are some. What I see relegation as being like 3 from 11. I think there are 9 that are like in a different, literally in a different league. You know, bar the name.
Mini league.
Yeah, mini league. Sorry, you lads know these modern terms that I don't, being so old. What I see is I kind of see it from, like, you know, that lot that were there again, it was the same suspect. I just think Forest. What I do like about Forest in a way this year is that we are not on the tips of everybody's tongue like we were last year. We're a little bit under the radar. I mean, I've seen quite a few preview programs on YouTube, and there are people who know what they're talking about and people who seem to not know what they're talking about. But within that spectrum, nobody has Forest finishing in the bottom 3. I've seen the odd one or two, and I think we will be. What I'm going to do, any podcast they go on, so I can never be accused of being delusional. When people say to me, which teams are in the relegation battle, the first team I'm going to say, so I cannot be accused of it, I'm going to say Nottingham Forest are in a relegation battle. Before they say Sheffield United, Luton, Wolves, Everton, Bournemouth, and all the rest. And they're all in it. Do you know what I mean? So 15th for me. That wasn't short. I do apologise.
As Gabe said, so Kev says
14th best, 17th worst.
I've never seen Kev.
Gary Marriott. He's been looking at my paper.
What have you done?
My paper. I'm telling you, Gary's been looking at my paper.
Oh, Gary Marriott.
I truly believe Forest can finish 14th.
Oh, that'd be great.
If you could get the defence right. If you could get the defence right.
Get Felipe back.
Because I believe there's more teams now in the division that you guys can go against and get results.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Whereas last season was a little bit different. It's your first season. Now you know you can get results against some of these teams. So best case 14th, worst case obviously just staying up for another season. I think it's so important you do that.
Does that average out at my 15th then, Kev?
No, does it, Ek? Does it, Ek?
He's testing your maths there.
You're somewhere in between.
Okay, before we go, I'll say my last bit. I think Forest will finish. I think I said with Kev last time he was on the show. 14th, I said. But with the players that we've got now, I've seen all the games. I think we'll finish 16th. We'll finish 16th. I think with the players we've got now, but we're getting Turner. But we need at least 2 more players. At least 2 or 3 more players to thinking we'll do it.
To bolster the ranks. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Because it's a squad game, isn't it? The Premier League is a squad game, whether we like it or not. And hey, there's the last question. What's the score on Saturday? Come on.
Oh, people in the comments, what do you think? Forest play Arsenal.
What's the score on Saturday?
Right, short and sweet, Dave and Des, because I know these two talk for ages. Dave, what do you think the score will be? Be honest.
Arsenal 3, Nottingham Forest 0. Declan's first game, massive occasion, and they're on the high.
That's what I've got.
Yeah, I just can't see us winning.
Des.
That was exactly what popped into my head. But I fear it could be a little bit more because they'll be right up for.
Timber looks a good player too.
He's a top player.
I think
we finished last year, you know, and the fact we hammered one of those nails in as well. And
yeah, they'll want revenge. we poked the bear, didn't we? Hey, do you know what? Potsy was saying to me, we haven't forgotten that afternoon in May, you know, Aspirin. I'm thinking, oh, crikey, you know what I mean? They're all lying in wait for me, all these lovely Arsenal people, you know.
You'd be treated like Dresden China, mate, I swear to you. They're looking forward to seeing you guys, mate, I tell you. It's your fault. Hey, I got to thank you. You made sure the owner spent over 200 million. Thank you.
They've sent Forest the bill.
I think Forest will lose. I think Arsenal, they've got a good side. I know. They are. They've got a good side, but I think we'll lose. I think we'll score. I think we'll score 1. We've not scored. We've been here twice. We've lost 5-0 twice, but I think we'll score. But we'll get 4-1.
Imagine if we won, though.
Yeah, that's what I don't want to imagine. I tell you, my phone's gonna be red up, mate. I tell you.
People in the comments, if we win, just leave Kev alone. I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it.
I know I'm gonna get plenty. Trust me.
Right. Before we do go, I want to say, everyone knows a good friend of ours, Chris Williams, passed away. Kev, I just want to say, we everyone love Bartman. Let's say something positive about Bartman, because we know he's a joke star. People in the comments as well, what was your best memory of Bartman at Nottingham Forest? Let me get with Kev. I know you've got so many stories about Chris Williams.
There's so many stories. You know, he was the best whip man in ever. You know, when you go out as a team and everybody puts money in the whip, right? Because he didn't drink, we all gave him the whip money. So he'll have his mind about him. But you know what Bartman used to do? He used to drink pineapple juice or whatever.
Yes,
he
said.
He used to put into the whip as well. And I remember the lad saying to him, Bartman, why do you only drink that? But he says, I'm a teammate, aren't I? And I say, yeah. So he said, well, I've got to put into the whip. You know, that sums him up. He was a proper guy. Great lad. Always loved a laugh and a joke. And, you know, it's so tough to take that he's no longer here. And, you know, he's so young, 49 years old, and he's not with us. But do you know what? Just like everybody says, life goes on, and you got to look at the good times, because life's too short to wallow in it. We miss him dearly, of course we do. But, you know, he's one of football's good guys, definitely.
I've got a memory. I'll make it short and sweet. And as everyone knows, that laugh, but everyone loved. But yeah, it's a sad moment, but we had all great memories with Chris Williams. And
he loved Forest, by the way.
He loved Forest.
Just a quick one. I sat in a box in the Trent End on a Boxing Day once when Megson was in charge. One of my lasting memories is Larry Lloyd had come over from Spain and got absolutely hammered. He was in the Trent End in the box, and Bartman was all the way down the other end. And Larry Lloyd fell asleep in the first half. And he shouted down to Bartman, it's effing Megson rubbish. And all you could hear was Bartman laughing all the way down the other end of the box, like the width of the pit. He was just laughing his head off at Larry Lloyd because he was drunk and hammering Megson.
Can I just sort of add on to that as well? That Monday was just an unbelievable day of sadness, because we lost Trevor to start with, and you know, Trevor was definitely my era, and he was such a gentleman. He was a fantastic footballer, as Brian said, the instant man on the football field. And we lost Trevor, and then to lose, I mean, the Bartman, it hit me hard. I had the unbelievable privilege of being in a box in the Brian Clough stand with him for the Wolves game.
And
he did have the best laugh I've ever heard. But what he did as well, he brought his mum with him, and his mum is an incredible lady, Edith. And every time, so Dore, he was the guest of honour, so he walked on the pitch, and his mum was like leaning, and she kept going, David, it's wrong. Christopher should not be walking on the pitch. And I was saying to her, well, Mrs. Bart, he did earn the right to go on it. He was good enough to play for Forest. I don't think it's right. And she was wonderful, and he was wonderful. And that's why it really hit me. And I think, to be honest, our fan base is so much of a family and close-knit that the loss of those two guys really hit hard. I'm sure something will be done for the Sheffield United game. You know, big credit as well to Sheffield Wednesday on Friday night when they played Southampton. They you know, we're parochial about Forest, but we have to remember it hit Sheffield Wednesday very hard as well. Yeah. So I think you know, let's go and have a good season in memory of those two legends of our club. You know what I mean?
100%. Before we go, I've got two super chats. Thank you, Ant, for the hat for 279p. That goes towards Des' haircut or something like that. If he needs one for Arsenal game, Des. So Des, get a haircut, please, if you can. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, people. Kev, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for coming on my stream.
Always pleasure talking to you guys, Des, Dave, And you, Mr. Dore, always. And
Always.
my phone will be on Saturday.
It better be.
It will be. I hope yours is. Don't be telling me the Emirates there's no signal.
Kev, there's never signal. There's never signal. It's always the.
Get out of it. There's signal. Right.
Kev, he's in the car with me all the way down and all the way back, and I'll make sure he's got it on, mate. All right.
I'll have it on.
I'll message you. Guys.
Like I said, it's been a pleasure, people. Like I said, Kev, it's been a pleasure as well. Dave and Des, thank you as well. I'll see Des and Dave at the Emirates on Saturday. But as well, people, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you on Friday with my guy, Curtis Shaw. We're doing the Arsenal preview show on Friday. That'll be 9 o'clock. And as well, people, straight after this video, there's a video afterwards. Dave's on it. It's been a pleasure. A pleasure as well. As well, make sure everyone subscribe to Do Your Daily. Make sure as well to the Kevin Campbell. Hybrid Squad as well, people, with himself and Sophie as well. So make sure everyone goes subscribe to him. It's been a pleasure. Premier League is coming soon. Hopefully, Forest can do something against Arsenal. I'm praying. 3 points. Would be a pleasure. It's just a goal. Just a goal. But it's been a pleasure, people. Make sure you please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you on Friday. Peace and love. Up the Forest, people.